And we're live. Paul looks scared. No, oh no. What am I doing here? Let's put this back. First and foremost, guys, we just want to say thank you to Toloa for having us here once again. They're beyond awesome. They always open the doors for us. Big thank you to Dan Cantu. He's definitely the reason that we go to the places that we go, and we're so blessed to have him in our organization because he's the one that's opening the doors for us to have these podcasts at these beautiful places. As people don't know where Toloa is located, I don't know the name of the streets. Don't judge me, but Toloa is right behind Ambra. It's on the second story where what's the name of that coffee place downstairs? Elisa's Santo Pecado. So
it's Auburn over here.
Is it Auburn? North 10th in Auburn. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Mr. Rodriguez, make sure I get that right. But y'all need to come check out the Loa. It's a beautiful, beautiful setup that they have here. You are on the second story. You can come have drinks, come have a good dinner. Bring your wife, bring your girlfriend, bring your loved ones, and have a good time. But with that being said, my co-host is on his way. He'll be here shortly. We got to get the show going because we got two very busy and important people here today. Mm-hmm. We got Miss Abby Reyna and we got Mr. Paul Rodriguez. Thank you all for joining me.
Good to be here.
Mr. Paul, can I have you just move the microphone closer to your...
Sure.
Yeah. Awesome. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good.
All right.
Thank you for coming on.
Hey, flattered that you got me here, and I'm just excited. I feel really excited.
Well, I had no idea. Did you know that there's a whole month dedicated to women?
Only a month?
Only a month.
Great answer.
It should be a year. I mean, I think women have all the power, man. If you're a girl, you can take over the world if you do things right.
I think so too.
But that's awesome. And I called Abby earlier, and I was like, hey, we're gonna have this podcast. Paul's coming on. I want you to come on, and thank you for accepting.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You want to do me the honor and turn the hourglass? It's a little staple. Ulises was letting me know that we're on podcast 32. Yeah! Let's go!
Hey, boss. Sorry I'm late. What's up, good to see you?
Yes, sir. We just started. Come on, man.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you.
Let's go, man.
All right. Are we live?
We just got live.
Oh, okay, sweet.
Hey, podcast number 32, bro.
Oh, my goodness. That's a lot of podcasts.
I know, man.
A couple of dimes waiting on a dollar.
Yeah, something like that. Working on it.
I was just saying
We got
thank
the
you.
hourglass going.
Yes, sir. We just
Check,
flipped
check,
it.
mic check.
We're good to go?
Turn it up a little. Please. Oh, man, what a day I ran up here. Hold on. Time out.
Are you getting in shape for the
Let's
flag
check some
football?
pulse right
Yeah. Busy. We're living in an area that's continually growing, and the traffic isn't what it used to be.
Oh no!
Right?
Yeah.
You time it, and even from like a month back or 2 months back, the drive from a certain area usually takes so long. Now it's taking a little longer.
Yes, sir.
So that's a
Yes, sir.
That's a good positive thing, I think, for our
the
community,
valley.
for the area. We're growing, Paul.
That's right. And especially when you have the cities and the counties doing these drainage projects and other improvements, all of a sudden you're driving along and boom.
It gives
you got a
room.
detour.
It gives room for growth, right?
Yeah. And everybody's doing it.
And everybody's doing it. You've been here a while.
Yeah.
How long?
Well, I
You've
was
been in this
born and
business.
raised in the valley. I was born in Edinburgh, raised in Far in San Juan,
What high school did you go to?
PSJA.
There you go. Tri-City.
Let's go.
Once a bear, always a bear.
That's
Oh
right.
man, hey, you go to PSJ and you make it. You can go someplace.
That was back when we just had the big schools, right?
That's right.
PSJ, Mac High, Mission
Edinburgh.
High School,
That's exactly
Edinburgh
right.
Bobcats.
Yeah.
You knew who you were playing, right?
That's
Every
cool.
Friday.
That's cool.
So I went away to school, and after I graduated, I was in Dallas for 3 years.
I'm not gonna let you skip through that because
yeah.
I've heard some very exciting stuff about that, right? Am I correct? Did you go to an Ivy League school?
I did a long time ago. Galaxy
Tell us
far,
about
far
that.
away.
You're a Valley boy, go to PSJ High School,
Right.
and somehow get into Ivy League school. That's not normal.
That's beautiful.
Well, yeah, it was unusual, but I had an older brother that went to A&M and another brother went to Notre Dame, so They helped. They
Paved
guided
the
me
way.
along.
Yeah.
Kind of
Awesome.
suggested what to do, how to get ready. Back then, you had to do individual applications. Today, it's a lot easier. It's a
Yeah.
general application. But yeah, so I just did my homework and got on the applications the summer of my junior year, between junior and senior year, and
What school
Turned
did you
them
go
in.
to? What
I
was
ended up at Princeton.
Princeton. What did you study in Princeton?
I don't know if anybody has heard of that.
Come on.
Only
Princeton.
Yeah, I
I
majored
don't,
in
I don't remember. It
economics.
starts with a P or
Economics.
something.
Economics in Princeton. How was that experience?
Well, it was, Princeton at that time had just turned co-ed, like in 70.
Really?
And
I
got
did
there
not
in
know that.
72. So this is the old Ivy League, really kind of a conservative atmosphere,
Nice.
and not anywhere near as diverse as it is now. And there's a lot of different things about it today. It's a much better school. Now, it was a very rigorous school. It was a challenge. It was a lot of work.
Why did
And,
you choose to study economics? How did that come about?
That came about really sort of on the side, because at Princeton, your first 2 years, you study all kinds of subjects, and then you make a decision on what to major. And originally, I had hoped to maybe go to medical school, but it didn't take me long to find out that my science background was weak, especially compared to my student body. So I ended up looking around and thinking about, well, what am I interested in? Maybe I'll go to law school, business school, and economics kind of made sense. So I did that, and it was a good thing I did, because I ended up, when I got through, I was pretty burned out, ready to really go to work. I didn't want to go to law school or business school.
Yeah.
So instead, I ended up being a bank examiner, and that was for the Control of the Currency in Dallas, and that was like going to graduate school.
Yeah.
But I was getting paid, and then I was learning the banking business.
What is
Yeah.
a bank examiner, right?
Well, we worked for the Control of the Currency for the national banks, and so and that process has changed. But back then, we would show up by surprise, knock on the back door of a bank.
What are y'all doing? Let me see your
say,
papers.
You have a badge, and hi.
Yeah.
And
So people feared you then too.
they didn't know. They didn't know. They didn't know we were coming. It's very different now, but back then they had no idea. And it was
Yeah.
always, oh man, you couldn't have come at a worse time.
Yeah. It's never a good time,
Never a good
right?
time for a bank exam. Yeah. So we would go to all
Did,
sides
did
of
you like?
banks.
Did you like that position?
Oh yeah, it was. Are you kidding? For me, it was, man, it couldn't have been better.
Yeah?
I mean, it was like going to graduate school,
Yeah,
learning,
you were learning.
and I was getting paid.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I worked out of Dallas, so we covered North Texas, parts of Oklahoma, and then we would help other parts of the region catch up, like Houston, Dallas, West Texas, El Paso.
And your
You're
job.
you're how old at this time?
Well, I was, 22.
Yeah. Fresh out of college.
That's
Oh yeah,
amazing.
yeah. No, I graduated.
With a badge.
I graduated
the-
June 6th, and June 10th, I was in Greenville, Texas, at a bank.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
So what is it? I'm interested in this. So what is it exactly that your job entails? You show up and you just make sure that the bank is properly handling that money.
The
or-
whole idea of it, particularly then, was to determine the soundness of the bank. In other words,
Okay.
is this a bank that has got good assets? Do they have good procedures, policies and procedures? We would, back then in particular, we would really look much more into specific loans. We would examine a part of their loan portfolio today, but at that time, we did some real specific stuff. We would even go in there and do a spot cash for the tellers, and just to see
Really?
if
Makes-
and really it's not important. It's not relative. I mean, when you think about what you're doing there,
Yeah.
whether a teller is off or not, or it's not necessarily, the bank's not going to create it because the teller's off X amount, but
Sure.
we did it. But then we would evaluate the loan portfolio, the bond portfolio. We evaluated management, the capital adequacy of the bank. In the end, and we would do them in a week, a lot of times, maybe 2 weeks for a bigger bank.
Yeah.
So we worked, man, we got there at early 8, left at 6 or 7.
How does a graduate get that job? That's pretty interesting. How did you come around? How'd you come about that? Like, how did that come into your table?
Back then, my parents had a good friend from Weslaco, Mr. El Stilivatis. In fact, he was one of the founders of the Lone Star National Bank. And he knew Mr. Juan Medina in Weslaco, and he at that time was running the Magic Valley Savings and Loan Association.
Okay.
And he says, listen, I think he had been an examiner, and it was true. So I went to meet him. And he's the one that really got me onto it. I mean, to this day, I always appreciate Mr. Medina. He's still around.
Yeah.
He helped make the connection with the HR people in Dallas at the control of the currency. So my senior year after Christmas, on my way back to campus, I drove through Dallas. Got an interview with Mr. Carruthers, who ended up coming down here later on after he left the controller's office to work at the old Texas Commerce Bank.
Yeah, I remember.
You've never heard of it. You
I
would
remember. Yeah.
And that's who interviewed me. And ultimately, 3 months later, I found out that I had a job.
That's awesome.
Wow. That's crazy.
22 years old, living in Dallas.
Well, Tony Dorsett and I got there at the same time.
Yeah.
The summer of
Two
'76.
of the best things that ever happened in Dallas.
To Texas.
Hey, Tony Dorsett being number 2.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Nah, Paul, you have a lot of respect in our community.
Oh, thanks.
Anybody that I've asked about, we every time we're going to interview somebody, we're interviewing Paul. What do you think I should ask? Man, nothing but respect for you.
Well, appreciate that.
No matter
Too kind.
who I asked. So you've obviously done things right here in our community. When did you get down here?
Well, I was in Dallas for 3 years, and then one of the examiners that I worked for had to move to El Paso. Back then, there were no branches. Every bank was separately established and chartered, and we had bank holding companies in Texas. And he was working in El Paso with the State National Bank Holding Company. It was a big bank in El Paso. So he needed some help doing what I had been doing as an examiner in loan review. And I had discovered El Paso when we went to help them catch up one summer, and I loved it.
Yeah.
So I jumped on single, so I jumped on it and went to El Paso. Really enjoyed El Paso.
How long did you live there?
3 years.
3 years.
79 to 82.
That is awesome.
Did it feel like our border town?
Absolutely. I mean, except there, it's more like in Brownsville, where you go right across the bridge and there's Matamoros and El Paso.
Literally,
same
you can
thing.
see it. Yeah.
Juarez is right there.
Wow.
But the thing is, and that Ciudad Juarez and El Paso were really unique because both of them were so far away from their capitals that they learned to survive on their own.
Sure.
And at the time in particular, you compare El Paso or Juarez, for example, to Matamoros or Reynosa or Tijuana, no comparison. I mean, the place was hopping. You didn't see people scrambling. You didn't have a lot of beggars on the corners and stuff like that.
Right.
People were working. And in fact, that's where the maquila started, was in Ciudad Juarez, around the time I was there.
Yeah.
The Maquiladora program started in Juarez. And so, to me, it was no problem. I was used to going across, but it was easier.
Yeah.
And then Ciudad Juarez was a big town.
Yeah.
And they had a great racetrack. They had a dog track on the level of what we had in Harlingen.
Yeah.
But they would switch on Saturdays to during the summer when there was horse racing.
Oh, nice.
So then they'd have horse racing there. And
That's pretty cool.
yeah,
So
but Juarez was really very international. The best Chinese food in the area was in Juarez.
was it Juarez? That's cool.
The Shangri-La restaurant. Yeah.
That's really cool.
So no, but then of course Mexican, and of course their food's more New Mexican. So as far as that went, it wasn't the same culinarily.
So the racetracks. Are you a gambling man?
Well, I mean, it was fun. And,
Well, what do you think?
It was and really
I'm
inexpensive.
trying to get to know Paul.
It was really inexpensive.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Do you go to Vegas?
Not like I used to.
Yeah.
In my youth, I used to go more often. Now I just go when there's business needs to go.
Yeah, I get you. That's cool.
Nice. Well, we also have Miss Abby here.
Yes.
Yes, I spoke to Abby earlier this morning. I was right before you walked in. I was, introducing Mr. Paul and Abby, and I was saying that this morning I spoke to Abby, and I told her, I was like, hey, we have Valley Land, and it would be good for you to come through, because it is Women's Month, or is it Women's Month or
Women's Month, and today is actually Women's Day.
Wow! Go Abby!
Woo, woo.
Hey, girls rock, man.
They really do. Yes, they really do. I think
We don't have enough in our industry.
Nah, and it was important for you to be here because I think that you're a very positive representation of what a woman represents in the industry, and people look up to you. You carry yourself with class, dignity, and respect. I think that that's something that everyone should look up to. And I want to know a little bit about you, Abby. Where'd you go to high school?
Born and raised in McAllen, and I graduated from McAllen Memorial.
McAllen Memorial.
Yep.
Wow.
A Mustang.
A Mustang.
Were you a cheerleader? Here we go. Here we go.
I was the ones that we dance.
Oh,
You're a dancer.
The flyers, or what are they called? The
Prancers.
Prancers.
And various,
Yeah.
Back then, that's what I was.
That's
but
cool. Do you enjoy that?
It was something, you know. I wanted to. I loved basketball and volleyball, and it came to a time that, like Paul said, I just couldn't cut it. Volleyball, you need to be a certain height sometimes to reach over that net, and basketball, pues que se diga, I'm like 5'3".
I'm just Mexican.
I'm just Mexican. So what can you do is dance.
Yeah.
So I did that for a while. But that's where I graduated from. My grandmother raised me, so I came from, if any of y'all have heard this, I'm from La Paloma.
What's La Paloma?
Dude.
What are you talking about?
Come on.
Southside acá?
What?
Yeah. He's young, right?
Yeah.
So back in the
We'll give him
day.
a break.
Yeah.
Es niño.
Yeah. Back in the day, man, when I was growing up, it was all about what barrio you were from. And it was really, and even though I went to a very nice high school, it was, you had the cream of the crop of McAllen, and you had the hood.
Yeah,
So,
there was a
and
distinction.
There was
right?
a distinction, and they say that the students drove better cars than the teachers, at McAllen Memorial. But I was just a little girl, and my grandma raised me right, and I applied myself to studying, and I was the first generation to graduate and to go to college. So I was pretty proud of myself.
Nice.
I try to stay away from trouble, and I've been blessed. Look where I'm at.
What did you study in school?
I changed so much because...
And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So out of high school, when I was in high school, I was doing HOSA, for those of you who know, it's, for health, Occupational Students of America. So I was going to be a respiratory therapist.
Okay.
And then I said, no, I'm going to be an
Medical
RN.
field also.
So I did the candy stripe kind of thing at the hospitals, and I volunteered, and then I could see blood, and I could do, but when it came to giving a shot, I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I didn't want to see the needle. I cried. I trembled, and it's not a good
cried
thing
too.
when it's like,
I cried too.
come here, Ronnie.
Can you bring somebody else?
So then I was like, I was going to, back in the day, Pan Am, and I was working for a CPA firm who had a payroll company called Dial-A-Check back then, and Dial-A-Check took care of all of these local companies, small businesses.
Yeah, Dial-A-Check.
With Jack Ewing was the owner back then, and I worked there, going to school and working at the evenings. Do you remember Iannelli's?
I do.
Italian
yes,
restaurant?
on 10th Street. It was
Yes.
great.
So you went to
I don't
school.
know why they closed
and
that
you
down. It was
worked.
amazing.
I went to school and had 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Everyone that please hear that. Went to
Yeah.
school and had 2 jobs. That's amazing.
absolutely. And then I said, I'm going to be a CPA, because Jack Ewing was a CPA.
Good CPA.
An amazing CPA,
Yeah.
still at it. And I said, I'm going to be a CPA. So I said, what are you going to do? Once a year I can work all night. Well, for those of you who don't know, CPAs work quarterly. So you're looking at long evenings every quarter, and you're doing tax returns, people bringing you all their documents. And I said, no, that's not for me either.
I don't like that either.
So, Dial-A-Check being the company that it was handling all these, I was like, I don't think I can do this. So then one of my closest friends knew a title company. We did their payroll. Back in the day, it was called Security Land Title. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Tom Wingate was the owner back then.
Yeah.
So he said, I need a temporary receptionist because my girl's going out on maternity leave.
Yeah.
So she's got a job for 6 weeks, more or less. So I started doing that, and then when the 6 weeks were up, they're like, we're not letting you go.
Yeah.
So then I became an assistant, and then from the assistant, I became a closer. So, I worked there for 17, 18 years, and, I became a closer there until they came knocking.
So that's a classic pathway in the title business.
Yeah, you started as a secretary.
That story's been repeated many
Yeah.
times. Yeah.
Right.
Who else was telling me that? Judy? Was it Judy? When we had Melissa on. Similar story in the title business. All right, so you flash forward a little bit before we get to title company and working for Mr. Paul. You're in El Paso. What brings you back down to the Valley?
Well, like I mentioned, at that time, banks were individually chartered.
Yeah.
And this was the early 80s, and there was a boom going on, especially in Texas.
Yes.
And there was banks opening up left and right. And the Valley had been really neglected a lot. There were not a lot of new banks.
Yep.
And at this particular time, we had two in FAR, Lone Star National Bank and Central National Bank. And Lone Star was independent, sole bank. And I opened up Central National Bank, but at that time was connected with the Alamo Bank of Texas. So that was kind of there was a holding company, the Alamo Bank Holding Company, and we had the Alamo Bank, and Central National Bank was the second bank in that company, and then there was McAllen National, if you remember, down on Second, across where Vantage Bank is now.
Yeah.
So anyway, they were establishing the bank, and they were almost on the verge of opening. They still needed some things to get done. And they needed my expertise to get through with the application and everything. And so I came down in the summer of '82, and we opened the bank February 14th, 1983. And that's where Bank of South Texas is now.
Commerce Bank.
Wow.
Bank of South Texas.
Yeah. But you
our
opened
bank, our bank was called Central National
Central
Bank.
National
And we're
Bank.
connected
Gotcha.
to the Alamo Bank of Texas.
Got it. Okay.
Wow.
So you opened that up in '82.
That's right.
Lone Star National Bank already exists.
We opened up almost at the same time.
Yeah.
Same year.
You've said you made a name for yourself in the industry, right? Because
Well,
you
then from
you
there,
make sure they're qualified. Make sure
Did
they're
they
doing-
reach out to you? How did that happen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So somebody reached out to you.
recruited.
I knew this.
How do you recruit then,
I knew
right?
some of
It seems so easy now, right? Because you got internet and you got Indeed and you got what's the
Mineral water.
that platform that all business people are on? What's it called? It's
No,
slipped my
but
mind.
I mean, think about it, dude. Nowadays,
now it's like, how do they know?
Everybody
you know
knows,
what? I
like
know Paul's
Facebook.
over here. Then,
Yeah.
you know,
How
we
do you
gotta
know
get him.
Paul exists?
yeah. Like how?
Yeah,
how does
I don't know anybody in El Paso.
How did that
You know
happen?
what I mean?
Mainly the bank directors. One in particular, Mr. Frank Schuster. I went to school with his wife, and he was a year ahead of me at PSCA. And he was a director at the bank, at Alamo Bank, and his family had been real involved in the bank, and others from the Alamo, San Juan Donna area. Champ Jones, may you rest in peace, was also involved with that bank. A lot of good people. And he knew about it, and he knew my background as an examiner. We went to school together, and
It's all
he was-
reputation.
Yeah.
he was at Cornell when I was at Princeton. So,
Oh wow! Incredible.
so he called me
awesome.
up and said, "Hey, we're opening a bank. What do you think?" So I came down and met with them, and we decided.
Just think the level of minds that are doing all these moves.
Sure, of course.
To be around that and know somebody, like you said, it's all reputation. It's like that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. So by then I'd gotten married to someone from Mission, to Mirna, and
That's where I'm
so
from.
we left.
You did right, kid.
We left El Paso
Forget
and
Princeton. You
and
did
came back
mission
to-
right.
came back to FAR and Mission. In fact, we lived in Mission.
Okay.
So couldn't find any place in FAR, and ultimately I ended up in Mission. After about 3 years after opening the bank, what used to be the First National Bank of Mission had a
On Conway?
CEO that was retiring, and they were part of a holding company out of San Antonio, NBC, and they reached out to me again. In that scenario, a former examiner that I had worked with knew about me, and so they reached out to me and said, "Hey, you want to talk?" So I got involved with that bank. Went to Mission.
Wow. That's when word of mouth actually had value.
Exactly.
It's when now. I mean, now you can be anybody you want. Tomorrow I'm gonna wake up and be an astronaut. Because we live in a day and age where anybody can wake up at any given day and at any given time and change their whole perspective of how they want the world to view them. So to hear this and hear hey, you did this without social media.
Right.
That's something that's admirable.
Yeah.
You
I don't think the younger people this day and age understand what that's like. It's different.
No,
It's like having a landline phone.
Yes, that's right.
What is that?
That's right. That's a pretty good
How do you
analogy,
communicate?
actually.
How do you communicate with no internet?
Well,
That's
we
weird.
used to have black books, and we had, you kept
Phone
track
You
of
had a
people's phone
Rolodex.
numbers.
Remember the Rolodex?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah.
A
You had
phone
a-
book.
A phone. I remember that. The phone book.
Well, You know, I used to memorize numbers. I used to have the airline numbers memorized. They're 800s because I'd have to fly up to school and stuff. And so I had
Same here.
Continental and
Yeah. No, I had an innate ability to remember numbers. I couldn't remember anything else. Don't put me in a history class or an English class because I couldn't remember anything. But numbers, for some reason,
They
always seem to
gravitated.
stick. Yeah.
But now, forget it. You know,
Yeah, we don't have to.
I can't
Don't
remember
even
my
ask.
cell phone number.
Check LinkedIn. Just check out my LinkedIn.
Yeah, so I got started in the banking business that way, and ultimately, I was at IBC when they came over. David Guerra was the president of the bank at that time, and he'd been here about a month or so when they acquired Valley Federal Savings when it went down. Again, you never heard of it, but you did.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was involved with IBC for about 6-7 years, and then I got a call from Lone Star National Bank, and that's where I ended up my career for 9 years at Lone Star.
What was the atmosphere like here in the 80s in the Valley, right? Economically, where were we at?
Medio triste.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're still primarily agrarian. That was our bread and butter. We're just starting to come around in terms of diversifying the economy. The maquila stuff was just coming along. What was, if you believe it or not, what was a big deal then was the Winter Texans.
That was a big source of income.
And in the early 80s, the Winter Texans kept our part of the world alive because we had a bad freeze like in 83, 84, around that time. And then the devaluation. Of course, we used to get we always had a lot of retail from Mexico.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, it was in, 83. No, it would have been November of 82. And I mean, everything was going and blowing. Realtors were busy, contractors were busy. There was money coming from Mexico left and right. And then, poof, with the devaluation, from one day to the next,
Gone.
things went down.
There was one right before that.
And then
in
we
the
get the
70s.
freeze in 83.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we were really hurting. But the Winter Texans kept us going. I mean, they came down and were, they really kept a lot of businesses open. And when things were bad in the early 80s, and then meanwhile the banking business started scrambling, and oil and gas was scrambling. And back then, I mean, things really were dormant and
There was nothing.
bad for a long time. Banks had other real estate left and right, and they had them for a long time. Not like now. Now there's capital here. We didn't have capital in the Valley a lot.
Yeah.
Like to capitalize that bank, both of the banks, Lone Star and Central National Bank, I think it was $2 million, and that was a lot of money. I mean, to raise $2 million to capitalize a bank, man, it took getting a lot of people together. I mean, today, you could get that pretty quickly if you go after the right professionals and business people that have that kind of cash now. But back then,
Give me your cash app.
Yeah. So basically, we were just starting to turn the corner, especially educationally speaking. And really, it took a while, but before you knew it, things gradually started getting better. Our educational opportunities started to improve. Maquila started coming along. Healthcare was a big part of that turning the corner.
Yeah.
And we started. I'll never forget when Charter Palms came down. That was one of the first. Now that was a psychology hospital, but it was brand new. And then next thing you know, HCA comes down and opens a hospital over to give what was then Methodist some competition. And then gradually more and more healthcare facilities came up. And now look at that's a big part of our economy. It grows and things like that are almost non-existent.
Yes, sir. They're almost all
still
gone.
around. They're still. So yeah, it was really a challenge. There was, wages were completely different. So we live in a completely different time.
How does that make you feel with all the growth that, I mean, you help in a way create all the change that we've seen now? You know?
Well, there's a lot of people
Yes, sir.
that are involved in that.
Yes, sir.
And then throughout the years, and
Yeah.
even in the agricultural years, and those are not the most liberal and wide open times either. I mean, we were, in particular in education, you could end up in one school with certain number of ethnicities, and in others certain other ethnicities, and there was no
I remember
No big surprise. And then back in the day, the tracks determined a lot. If you lived on the north side or the south side of the tracks. And La Paloma, streets weren't paved.
Yep.
No.
Streets weren't paved.
When I was there, they were.
Well,
I don't go
when you
that
look
bad.
at-
I don't go that bad.
You know, you look at Balboa Acres and Las Milpas, places like that, were really bad.
Yes.
And
Those were the colonias.
today,
Those were the.
You know, I mean, I live around the corner. I live north of Las Milpas, South McAllen. I go, you know, and man, you know, there's a lot of
traffic.
business people there. There's a lot of good businesses there. There's schools now. The city of FAR has done a great job there of bringing in city services and other things to infrastructure to the city of FAR. Just like McAllen finally woke up and did things in South McAllen. And so in more ways than one, we've come a long way, baby.
I bet.
Awesome.
That's awesome. That's beautiful to see. So we finally get to the Lone Star thing, right? How'd that come about?
Well, I got a call from Mr. Cantu, and of course I had met him. I knew
This is
him.
in what year? 80s? 80?
This would have been 96.
96,
around,
okay.
Yeah. And Javier Rodriguez was the CEO of the bank. David Diana was the executive vice president. Alonso was the primary stockholder. There were others, of course.
Yeah.
And we had conversations a couple of times. And ultimately, because I was happy at IBC, but Lone Star at that time was, you could see, was starting to go places. They had opened, when they started talking to me, they had opened Lindbergh, and it was the first one. I think Dove maybe had just opened. So they asked me to come along for the ride. And by the time I left, I retired December 31st of 2005. We had branches in the island all the way to Rio Grande.
Yep.
So I got to be involved in part
In
of
all
those
that growth.
expansion.
For Lone
I
Star.
got to work at multiple branches. We would do all kinds of things back then. We didn't even have necessarily stationary offices. We did, but it wasn't unusual to all of a sudden say, well, now we need to go here. And so Javier would open up a branch, for example. He'd stick around there, and the branch would get settled in after a couple of years, and then he'd
Move
go
around.
back to corporate and do it again. David did the same thing. David Deanda. So
Lone Star National Bank is heavily capitalized. And
very well capitalized, well operated. It's it's a regional bank.
Yeah.
And it's certainly a real South Texas bank.
Yeah. That's beautiful to see.
It is.
You retire in 2005,
Right.
and then after that, when do we get to title?
Well, get another call from Alonso. He had just
He can retire.
he was now the 100% owner of Valley Land Title, and was looking for some managerial help. And he asked me, well, what are you interested in? And I said, well, I had been looking to do some other things after I retired, and thought about it, and I said, you know what, this could be interesting. So I said, I'll commit to 5 years. That was 18
Sucker.
years ago.
Gotcha.
I'm still here.
No, it's been great. I have really enjoyed the business, meeting people like Abby, being involved with people like Abby. It's a great business. And for me, from the banking side, it's all about relationships.
Of course, yeah.
And that's the title business is like that a lot. Valley Land initially was really focused on lenders and banks. I mean, lenders and attorneys. And of course, I did a lot of business with attorneys when I was a banker. And in this part of the world, it's different at that time. In this part of the world, the bankers were always pretty friendly. We were friendly competitors, and it's still the same today. But there were some places, like I know in Laredo, El Paso also. I mean, they were competitors, and they were cutthroat. I mean, they were at that time. Especially I guess as spread out as we were, the banks, we got along. So even if I took a customer of yours, we didn't make a big deal about it. We said, well, we'll get them back. We'll work on it. So, I knew a lot of bankers, and I had good relationships with bankers and other lenders. And when the idea of coming to be involved with Valley Land Title, I jumped at it. And it's really was a great move. I mean, the banking business was very, very good to me. But I've enjoyed Valley Land Title Company, and the title business.
Yeah.
It's been really interesting.
For the people that don't know exactly what a title company does, would you all mind explaining what it is? And because we have all sorts of different viewers, and I would
Why
like.
it's so important.
Yeah,
Well,
like it's beyond important. Would you?
Abby would be the best one to tell you.
Would you be able to explain that to the people that don't know what a title company actually does to process the loans? Like,
yeah, sure. Like Paul says, we work with attorneys, we work with lenders, with banks, and even walk-ins. We get people, buyers, sellers that come into the branch, bring in a contract, and say, "Hey, I'm interested in buying. I'm interested in selling." Of course, lenders work with the refinance, and what the title company does is we do an examination. We compile all the information on that property, checking the buyers, the sellers, anything that pertains to that lot, and we put it in a little document format pamphlet that's called a title commitment. That's our commitment to be able to insure that property. So basically we tell the buyers, the sellers, the lenders, attorneys, hey, we'll commit to insuring this property with all our findings here, if we can take care of the issues, if any, on the document, on the commitment.
what does a title company look for? What is it that you're searching on a particular property in order to go ahead and create that commitment?
So the land here, people go by property addresses. What title companies do is every property is established with a subdivision name, whether it's commercial or residential, but it's got a subdivision name, and we go by lots. So that's what we check by. I know a lot of people say, hey, well, can you go tell me what 123 Cowboy Lane is? I was like, well, can you tell me? Like, we'll have to check.
We're going to need more
I'm going to
information.
need the
than
lot.
that.
I need lot 1 Cowboy subdivision, So what we do is we check that property in itself, and I'm very blessed that I work for Valley Land Title because we're one of the few companies that has sovereignty. In other words, being that Valley Land has existed for over 100 years, we're one of the few title companies. And I say that, because there's so many of us now.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, we were so limited, and now we've got, you turn right and left, and there's some, but not everybody has the capacity of saying, hey, we have sovereignty where we go back to the courthouse where I like to say it's till, when Jesus created the earth, and, they started keeping records.
When Jesus created the valley.
Yeah, when Paul created the valley.
Yeah.
No, actually.
What would Paul and Jesus do?
So we have access to all those records way back, which is very limited to a few title companies that can do that. So we check that, we put it in a report. We tell you, hey, in this lot, this subdivision, we check the names of the sellers in the state of Texas. If you have any liens or personal liens against you, they attach to any real estate
that you own,
you
right?
may own. Yeah. So not only are we checking the title, but we're also checking, for the owners, if they have child support liens, tax liens, workforce commission liens, entities, to make sure that they haven't been forfeited, because in the state of Texas, obviously you have to be in good standing to conduct business, So there's a variety of things that we check, that we put together in what's called your title commitment, and that's what we give out to the customer and say, hey, we commit to insuring if all of this is taken care of,
How far back do you go on any given property?
It depends. I mean, I think, especially on acreage, right, Paul?
On acreage, we can go back to the late 1800s, early 1900s. But generally speaking, newer properties will go back to, well, in some cases, if there's been a history, we can go back to the last time it got examined or last time there was a transaction, if we can get a policy that shows up, hey, we were good up to that point, so then we'll work forward. But there's times when, we're still not comfortable, and we may actually repeat and go farther back than what we have. But this is done for whether it's residents, commercial, people are buying, selling, home equity.
Refinancing.
But we also do stuff, because we basically have real estate records. So, for example, the Department of Transportation, State Department of Transportation is trying to expand a road or a highway, and they want to know, okay, so who owns this from this stretch of land?
Right.
And so that's where we come in. We can tell them who are the owners, what's out there, what's pending, and then ultimately help them facilitate, acquiring that right away, that additional space. The drainage district is out there expanding their canals.
When something
we do a title company like ours. I mean, many of our competitors are much more limited in the work that they do, but we work besides.
Why is it that they're a little bit more limited?
Because they don't have the same plant or the same staff that we do.
Okay.
To be able to
sovereignty.
do that kind of work. It takes more back room, takes more examiners, more people looking at real estate. So we do business with the county, with the state, with cities, municipalities, when they're having needs. And so it's a really interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
And experience counts.
Yeah, of course. How far back? I mean, at some point, this whole idea of transferring and committing to titles, how far back does that go? When did they start doing this? Right?
Oh, okay. Well, it's interesting because that was a big part of the development of the United States, economically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it didn't really get going until the 1800s, mid 1800s to late 1800s, when the whole idea of facilitating the purchase of real estate came into play.
Yeah.
And so imagine today, it's like people say, well, what do you do? Well, you know how when you buy a house and you want everything to be okay, everybody to get taken care of. That's what we end up doing. So it's a good question. So back in the day, there were no. It was a whole different world.
You had to carry your deed with you.
Yeah.
Remember?
There weren't states necessarily. So as the country evolved and states were created and counties, and started wanting to invest in real property, and of course that took a long time. Slowly but surely, the whole idea of buying real estate and owning it. And then being able to safeguard that and not be swindled or not have somebody give you a fake deed of trust or deed, a warranty deed. There had to be a way to do that. And so that's where the title business evolved from, to come in and give people some security, some confidence that when they buy a piece of property, that they know it, they're buying it from the appropriate person, that they're going to be insured, that down the road, nobody's going to show up on their door and say, excuse me.
You get out.
This was my grandfather's property. I don't know what you're doing here. I don't know what happened. And unfortunately, you guys, both of you have seen scenarios here where people have gone out there and they buy a house from a developer or somebody in the business, and they just go to an office, and maybe even a law office of some kind, or a notary, and they sign documents, they pay cash, and everything's fine. And then knock comes on the door, and it's the sheriff and saying, I'm sorry, but you got 30 days. You're going to have to move. What are you talking about? I paid for this. I paid for what cash I have. Keep thinking of those receivables. Here's my warranty and everything. Well, it turns out that the original developer or contractor had borrowed against the property, maybe multiple lots. And when the guy paid for the property, he didn't get a release.
Oh.
He didn't get a release from the lot.
True story.
It happens.
And so everything that's
Even
on
now,
that,
right?
everything that's on that property is gone. Yeah. And there's nobody to protect you. If you don't have a policy, there's no one out there. There's nobody in the government. There's nobody that's going to come in here and say,
that's
okay,
yours.
Because invariably, when that happens, the original owner, the original person, and maybe they didn't do it intentionally. Many times they did, but even when mistakes are made, and there's no insurance for that individual. So title insurance was set up to really, it's very different from other insurance because we're committed to, when you have that transaction, that we don't want somebody to show up. And if they do, then our underwriters, the companies behind us, because we're agents, just like a regular insurance agent, they're going to come in there and say, all right, we have this person that says that they used to own it, then they're going to go back. Maybe there was fraud. Maybe somebody did do something, pull the fast one.
Underwriters. That's a good one. Can you elaborate?
Even with mortgage people, because they look at a transaction and figure out whether we can do it, whether it works. Can we insure
That's their job.
Can we insure it? Other underwriters look to see, can we lend against them to this person? So they make qualifying decisions. But the whole idea
for the title company, right?
Right.
And the underwriter is a third party?
Yes. Like we're just like insurance agents. Just pretend you're going to State Farm or you're going to one of the others. There's an insurance agent. And then, there's especially independent insurance agents is the best example because they'll represent different insurance companies when they sell policies.
Okay.
So that's what we do. We're an agent. In fact, like in our case, we have primarily four underwriters, insurance companies that we do work for, and they have standards and say, we want you to follow these procedures, and this is what
we need, and this is what you have in.
And this kind of transaction, here's what you have to do. Yeah. And so our job is to do that, so that later on, there is nobody knocking on the door. And so insurance, you paid one time, title insurance, one time up front, never pay for it again as long as you own the property, and that's it. And then the idea is that, as opposed to life insurance, fire insurance, somebody dies, you have a car accident, then the insurance comes in. We want to avoid any kind of a catastrophe or claim or bad things
On the property.
on the property.
So when the land grants were given, right? Because here in our area, the land grants that were given were originally from Spain. Am I correct on that?
I would say predominantly, yeah, I would think so.
And then so at some point, those started to get broken up.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
and of course, we were part of Mexico, and so that
Even further back.
so
Yes,
you-
even further
you
back.
know, so all of those things. So there was records. There were records that started to be kept.
Yeah.
And that's how you start. That's how there are books. I mean, we still have. At one time, there was, big books that they would notate transactions on in history, and then they got to cards.
Yeah.
They would type up these cards. We still have file cabinets that have these little cards that talk about a particular transaction on a particular property.
That's so cool, right?
Yeah, it is
essentially
cool.
your record keeping for.
Yeah, stop by our
No.
office, McAllen
I was
branch. You'll
still-
see they have a back room with all those index cards of way in the back of all those subdivisions. And going back now, we have nice names like Rocking Subdivision or something. Back then, you'd look at a legal and it'd be Los Porciones or Los Ejidos de Reynosa.
El árbol grande
Sí.
a la izquierda del. Yeah.
De la vaca amarrada,
Yeah,
yeah.
sí. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool,
Yeah.
right? If you think about just the industry itself, and then and how all this has to grow in conjunction with the rest of us, right? Construction, construction and building homes and commercial and developers and all that all has to grow together,
Well,
right?
just think if you want to do a classic, residential property. You got a developer contractor who sells you a lot. Then you got to have somebody that's going to come in and construct a building
Yep.
on that lot,
Yep.
and everything else that goes along with it. So we're over here when it's time to close the transaction. We got all kinds of people to take care of. We got real estate agents. We have a builder.
Lender.
We have a lender that wants to be sure that when he lends money that it's going to be a clean deal, and if he has to foreclose, he's not going to have a problem.
Yep.
We got to take care of them. There's taxing bodies that have to. Their taxes we have to make sure are paid for, and if there's anything outstanding, it's taken care of.
HOAs.
If the seller
It's a
had
lie. No, that's
if
what
the
I'm saying.
seller,
It's
like
a lie.
Abby pointed out, if the seller had some history, some issues that ended up resulting in liens against the property, that those get taken care of. So there's all kinds of payoffs happening left and right. And in the end, after the dust settles, the contractor gets their money, the real estate agents get their money, the
Yeah.
seller gets their money, the owner gets his property with a document that says you don't have to worry about your owning this thing. You're
Everything's
covered.
legit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go about your business.
Yeah. So but you think about the people, for example, that Abby has to keep happy. There's a bunch of them.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I when we first started this organization, one of the biggest things that we would talk about is being a builder. You're the middle guy to everybody, right? When it comes to building a house, but we're also dealing with you guys, for example, who are the middle guy in your industry to everything, right?
Right.
And all those are all spinning plates, and they all have to come together.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for our escrow people, because imagine all the phone calls
Yes.
that are
That's a
involved,
lot.
taken care of, and then all of the regulations and laws and procedures that they have to comply with, besides the strict legal issues, but also specific requirements from underwriters that we are doing it appropriately. So, I mean, it's a big job that they do, and a lot of them, like Abby, they learned it from the ground up.
Yeah.
And over time, and I mean, it wasn't. And to this day, there's still not. We have made some improvements. We've made some progress in terms of having more formalized education. And in fact, we want to get to the point, for example, of maybe having a certification, for example, from a community college in the title business.
Mm-hmm.
We're working on that long term at the state level of working with community colleges.
You know
to do
what?
stuff
That's
like
pretty
that.
interesting you say that, Mr. Paul, because one of the conversations I was having recently with somebody from NAHB was that in the state of Texas, there's no such thing as a certain certification to ID a builder. You got your LLC number and all that good stuff, but to be a builder, you can wake up tomorrow and decide to start building. Yeah. And one of the things that they were talking about is that they see the growth that SCBA has had, and they see the influence that it's been having, or that it has right now, and they wanna see how we can, because STC, one of their, I think they're Marcelo, I forgot. I'm so sorry, but he's a dean there for the construction program.
Right.
And one of the things that they were saying is that they want to start.
Israel.
Yes, sir, Mr. Medrano. They want to see how we can bring that to not just the valley, but how we can help in creating a certain regulation to minimize the potential of just anyone being a builder.
Yes, by having standards.
Yes, sir. It's standardizing to be a builder, because you're taking away from the how do I say it? Like they made it like the essence of building someone's home. There's no purity if there's 5,000 builders, right? There should be a standard. And when they asked me what I thought, I was like, man, I think that's great, because we always talk about how we can elevate the standard of our construction, and I think by education, that would be one way to do it.
Well, and in particular, for example, Abby's licensed escrow officer. She had to get a license. She has to have a license to do what she does, to close transactions, to help people go through the whole process.
Realtors have to get a license to represent a builder.
Now, we also have what has happened, at least in the state of Texas, with our association of the Texas Land Title Association, where we do certifications for people in our business that acknowledge their experience levels. So, they can get certain designation certifications that are done by TLTA. And there's also some national associations like that too.
Yeah.
But I think back in the day, builders were registered at one point.
Were.
Back in the day, I
This
remember
was,
that.
mid 2000s.
Yes.
They had brought that out. Early 2000s, they had brought that out.
What
And
happened?
It went away.
Yeah, because it was too much in Texas to keep up with.
Yeah.
And if you had a claim, if customers didn't like their house, and they'd put a stop to it until the investigation was done, and it was like, oh my goodness, like, so a lot of people, some were frivolous, some were not, but at the end of the day, they said it's too much, and they stopped it.
They gave up.
They just weren't prepared to
I think
take it
to
all
the
on.
volume back in the day.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah,
Remember?
you had to pay,
And you had to be
and
registered and
you had to be
licensed.
registered and licensed. Yes, I remember that.
I think they mentioned it to me that right now Texas is like they used this analogy, but they were saying that it was like a wild wild west.
Yeah,
they're like, it's and even more in the valley. I was like, honestly, it's not that bad in the valley. I was like, it's actually pretty awesome. Y'all need to come on down here.
They think we're still on horses.
Yeah, like they're like, how's the border crisis down there? I'm pretty much.
I don't know if the low's nice. I don't know. I'm here at the rooftop and everything looks pretty good.
No shots fired.
Yeah.
Well, I was listening to a sports story on the WAC teams that came down for that. Just imagine.
Yeah.
The WAC teams had their swimming and diving competitions in FAR at the new auditorium over there.
I didn't know that. I need to know about. How do we know about these things?
This was the second year.
Yeah.
So they had the
That's a nice place too.
The Western American
Really
Conference
nice.
had their competition. Schools all over the Western United States.
Here.
We're in FAR, competing at that facility, which is an incredible facility. If you haven't seen it,
I haven't been inside, but I've heard. Heard it's incredible.
I've never been
down
inside
here, and so people came down from Iowa, from Minnesota, for the members of the WAC area. Well, I heard, and maybe there's a reason for it, but I heard of one. They were interviewing a manager of one of the teams or whatever. Well, they flew into San Antonio and rented a bus to get down.
Oh
here.
my God! What are you thinking?
Like, you don't think we have airports?
Yeah.
No, really.
We
No,
have
there
an
are.
airport.
No,
It's
no,
true.
it's
there
amazing.
are people that don't think that they'll fly to San Antonio, just like they did, and they got a bus and everything, and then came down here to do that.
I think it's funny.
participate.
It's like,
I
where you
wonder how
from?
that went, right? Because I'm sure they Googled it. Like that, we're not in 20 or 1980. You Google airports, McAllen. Oh no, I think that's too close to the border. We're not flying down there. We're gonna get shot in the air.
I hadn't thought of that angle, Ronnie, because I didn't think that way. But maybe you're right. Maybe that's what it was. But
Who knows?
but I do know of people, business people, vendors that show up, and I asked, so did you fly to McAllen or Harlingen? No, I didn't know. So I actually flew into Corpus or flew into San Antonio, rented a car. So they think they're coming down to nothing.
One of the
Dirt
things I've
roads.
experienced is like, so where are you from? No, I'm from South Texas. Oh, okay, San Antonio. No, the Valley. Where is that? Oh, so like the border town. Really? Oh, so how's that going for you? It's great.
We have a
What
great
do you
time.
mean? It's amazing. What do you mean? Like, I think that the news has it has a big influence on the perspective that people see the world with, and unfortunately, Mexico, just the word Mexico scares people. But I personally believe that, from being a person that left home, I went to I went to two universities. I went to Wayland Baptist University, which was located right on top of Lubbock. And that still was not co-ed, so it was like it was a co-ed school, but everything was separated. Females had their own section of school, males had their own section. There was Division I sports, so we had our track team was a national track team, multiple year winning. I think they wanted like over 18 years in a row. They were just monsters. I just got lucky to run with those guys. Basketball Division I, but one of the things that I met people from El Paso. And when I would hang out with these guys, I felt like I was hanging out with guys from the Valley, bro.
Sure.
They just had that energy and that slang. It was
The border
different.
towns, right?
Yes, sir. Like it was different. But one thing that I see is that you really don't appreciate the Valley till you actually leave it. And then you come back home and you think to yourself, like I've heard people and I've said this before, people are like, oh, I can't wait to leave the Valley. And I'm like, bro, you have no idea what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like it's a blessing to live here. Like you can be anything you want here. You just got to work hard, The Valley has a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, a lot. Well, that's one of the things that's changed a lot. That people can come now. I don't begrudge anyone going to another university somewhere, but and we have a lot of. I know it's been a story that people have talked about how people leave and they never come back. Well, not necessarily, and I think more and more people are coming back.
I came back.
And also more and more people, frankly,
You went to West
aren't
Virginia.
even leaving to get their education to begin with. They're not going that far. I mean, UTRGV, A&M, South Texas College. We got a lot of pretty Texas Southmost. There's a lot of good educational developments. In fact, I'm a trustee at STC, and we like to talk a lot about the fact we're 30 years old now.
Yeah.
So if you look at where we were in 1993, let's say 30 years ago, and our unemployment rates were sky high. I mean, in Starr County, they're 40% and up. Here in Hidalgo County, 30%, 20%. I mean, not unusual. And the South Texas College down here is just getting started. And as time progressed in the last 30 years, South Texas gets bigger. We have more campuses left and right. And lo and behold, that unemployment rate and stuff starts going down the other way.
Yeah.
And now we're, for a border, to live on the border and to be at 6% unemployment is essentially full employment, because even in the U.S. they consider 4% to be full employment. Wow. So that's another reason that we are where we are. And now there are things for people to come back to.
Yep.
Or to stay around for.
Do you guys feel a sense of responsibility to create a community that's beneficial for everybody?
Well, you got, for example, Abby Reyna right now. She's a candidate in Mission for school board, and she wants to see. She wants to see.
How did that? How did that
see
happen?
our education.
I want to know about
taking
that.
care of our kids' needs. And so, and it takes people to get involved in all kinds of things. That's just one example. But if you look around all of our organizations, we have some great nonprofits here of all kinds. Yeah. And you look at the people that make it run and go, the volunteers, the people that don't get paid. And really contribute and work hard. We're blessed.
We are truly blessed. I don't know. I don't have the experience to have lived in other cities in my professional career. So I don't know how those work. But the sense of community here and the people that get together and really grow our area, it's incredible. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, take STBA, for example.
Yes.
Prior to, Paul, you guys were one of the first ones to jump on board 4 years ago. It's already been 4 years.
We're the first one.
We're the first ones.
First check. Here you go, baby.
I wish you the best.
I love it. Hey, don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
But
Come on, Nate.
yeah. But it's important for us. It was important for us at the time to revolutionize the construction industry. Before that, builders didn't talk. They hated each other. Well, we didn't have a relationship with realtors. Never, right?
No.
That just didn't exist.
You know, Ronnie and I always talk about when we were at Jackson Heights, and I used to know Ronnie as the Tesla guy. I'd be like, dude, there goes Ronnie. He builds those houses, like, you know, never actually had a conversation with him. And then who would have thought years later, like, we talk on the daily now.
Yeah.
You know,
but the amount of growth and the support and you learn from others, right? Especially those that are doing the same thing you are. I remember when we first got together and we met to start this thing. It was builders, right? And oh shit, you're going through the same thing I do. We have a lot more in common than we realize, and all of a sudden this community just exploded. And we had at some point like almost 200 members. And I got to say, like, that's the stuff that it takes to truly grow our community. And I feel that has existed much prior to us, right? It's just now getting into our industry, in the construction industry. But the banking industry, the title industry, right? It takes everybody in our community to do their part.
Yeah. It takes partnership and trust.
Yeah.
You gotta trust.
But for some reason, and so that's what I started with. For is it like this in other cities? I don't know the answer to that. All I know that is in our community, in our area, man, you got a lot of people that truly care.
I think in the state of Texas for sure. I mean, if you go to San Antonio and Dallas, Houston, you'll see a lot of that, but it's on a different level.
Yeah.
You know, and it's certainly probably much more compartmentalized.
Yeah.
Different neighborhoods and things like that. That's one thing about us is that we're still regional. I mean, yes, and of course that's one of the things that people are trying to push the valley.
Yes.
Not just McAllen, not just Mission, not
right.
just FAR, et cetera, Brownsville.
Right.
It's part of what I know the Rio Grande Valley Partnership is trying to promote.
Yep.
And other developers is promoting the area.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff here.
Yep.
And that's a big change.
Yeah.
From the football mentality we used to have, the one school, one football
mentality.
Wars.
And now it's not that way. And it's not, you know, we've got multiple schools, we got multiple districts and everything else. So that's, we have just grown so much. And so we have more demand. We have more things that we need to do, more needs.
Yep.
Mr. Rodriguez, have you heard of we had a podcast with Ramiro, the mayor of Edinburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentioned to us that, I'm not sure if it was going to happen this year, 2024 or 2025, but he mentioned that it's going to be the first time, I don't know if you've heard this or not, but they're going to start calculating our what is it, not demographic, but like our population as a whole now. Have you heard anything about that? Instead of being like McAllen, Edinburgh, Alamo.
Well, I think that's what they're trying to do.
I assume it's beyond the MSAs.
Yeah.
You know, because that's where, for example, here we have McAllen, FAR, Mission, Edinburgh.
Right.
And then you've got over in Cameron, it's Harlingen, Brownsville, that sort of thing. Whether they're doing it population-wise, I have not heard, but there's other things that make that significant. But that's one of the things is that both of you build in how many different municipalities?
All over the place.
Yeah.
Right? All over the place.
Yeah, you build in Hidalgo County.
Yeah.
And then I know some of your builders are even now.
We're doing
also
Cameron
going
now.
And
Cameron's a big deal.
So you know that's
Brooks.
that says a lot, and it gives you an idea of we're no longer constrained by any border or property line that says, well, this is McAllen,
Right.
This is FAR. So no, we don't care.
Let me add a little ad there. And Valley Land can insure in any county in Texas.
By the way,
Nice.
I just got to plug that in.
Texas, yeah.
You know, plugging that in, Abby, I want to hear, how did you get into this whole running for school board? How did that happen? I saw that and I was like, really? Like, how did that happen?
You're like, huh?
Yeah, I was like, what are you doing?
Well, actually, what happened was I had a situation with my son at school. And, I called, tried to get it fixed, didn't get a call back. Called again, didn't get a call back.
What happened? I want to know what happened.
Okay, so
We want the cheese man.
Let's go.
So my son is in 8th grade. He's getting ready to go to high school. So, they make you get your classes, for next year already prepared. And he wanted to make a change. They told him that he could only do it in between classes. He had to go sit outside the counselor's office and, wait to be called in between classes. So he did that. Door was closed. He was respecting that. Well, 20 minutes later, the door's still closed. He's sitting there in the office. No one's no one's telling him, hey, the counselor's not in today. Yeah. So he gets up, and, class is about 10, 15 minutes, and he's like, well, I've got Spanish that I need to go make up some work on. Let me just go to Spanish, because his current class was advisory, where he doesn't get credit. He doesn't, it's just something that he's doing.
It's a filler.
It's a filler. So he says, I'm going to go work on what I need to work. So he does that. Well, word gets that he's in Spanish and not advisory. The teacher comes up to him and says, hey, you know what? You're going to get a referral. I'm writing you up.
What?
You're getting a referral because you skipped my class. And he's like, well, that's not really the way it happened. Let me explain to you what happened. My son's an athlete, good student, never, ever has gotten in trouble, not one infraction. And I think that, to me, a referral was going over and beyond. It was a little excessive.
Right.
He went and talked to the counselor, to the principals, and they said, well, don't worry about it. You're just a kid. It's just a referral. Nobody sees it. And he takes, I try to have my kids emulate their older siblings. Mm-hmm. My oldest right now, thank God, he's in college, plays college football, going into DPS, hopefully at the end of the year. The other one, also great student and athlete. So he's like, I'm going to be the first one in this family to get a referral, and I don't think I deserve it.
I'm the rebel.
He goes, give me lunch detention, which they did. Which they did.
That's terrible.
Plus the referral. So I went to go talk to the principal, and after fighting so much and trying to get it off, I said, well, do I need to call the school board member? Do I need to call the superintendent? What can I do to fix this?
Because it's not right. Yeah.
Not on a first infraction, right? So given that, I went home, and then my son was like, hey, Mom, thanks for going. He goes, I tried to do it myself, but they didn't listen.
Okay.
And that's when I thought, my son had a voice, and no one listened to him.
Yeah.
Who advocates? And then I thought about growing up when my grandma raised me, and something like that happened. My grandma wouldn't go to the school and talk to somebody. I mean, thank God I was a good student, but she didn't show up for me in times that I needed. So I'm like, what about the other kids in Mission who don't have that voice, who don't have that advocate to stand for them and say, hey, this is not right. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's not detrimental to their whatever you think it is, but it's not right. They don't like it. They voice their, concern, and no one heard them. And students are people. They're little kids that need to be heard. So if school is not the place where they can feel safe, or they can feel they can communicate and be heard, then what is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because a lot of those students don't have an amazing home like some of us do.
Right.
They go home and they have to fight hard for whatever they're living in and where they're living at and who they're living with.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So who's their voice?
Right. We're not setting them up for success, right?
Exactly. So if my son feels that he goes talks to higher ups and no one's listening, and I feel, hey, you know what? I'm a professional. I had the time to go do it, but I just thought he didn't have a voice, and I didn't only think about him, but I thought about the other kids who didn't have a voice.
Yeah.
And so the school board member that's a friend, I called and I said, hey, this happened and whatever. I said, I'm going to try to fix it. He goes, well, if it doesn't get fixed, call me tomorrow and we'll fix it, right? Because I agree 100% with you. Because they were fighting me on it, that they weren't going to take it off. So later on, they called me. They said they were going to take it off. And I'm like, great, that's great. So then the board member called me the next day. Did it get resolved? And I said, yeah, it did. He goes, well, you know what? I don't know if you know, but there's an election coming up, and we need a board member. We need people like you. I'm like, no, politics, no. But
how much does it pay?
He goes, and you get this for free 99, whatever it's called, nothing. But I'm very passionate. As you all know, I'm passionate about my work.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about my kids, students, everything, athletes that have played with my sons. I'm very passionate about that. And they just caught me at a time where it just,
You weren't having it.
I wasn't having it. I was having a mom moment. And,
That's what moms are for, man.
I know.
Moms are supposed to have your back,
So I didn't want to do it. And my kids were like, Mom, you always tell us to man up. And they're like, well, you need a mom up. I'm like, do it, run.
All right. I get it.
So here I am. And little did I know what I was getting myself into. But you know what? I welcome the challenge. And at the end of the day, win or lose, I gave it a stab, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and I gave it a stab for all the moms, for all the little people, for people that have no names, because of course, little did I know that, man, you run against these big wigs that have been there for years, and I was like, I didn't know there was so much.
And now there's politics involved.
And
And there's politics
this is Mission?
involved. This is Mission.
Mission,
Yes,
okay.
Mission ISD.
Yeah.
Abby
Well,
Reyna
let's-
for
yes.
place number
Hey,
3.
whatever we can do in our,
Yes.
from, our end, we
Yeah.
would love to help you out.
And I hope people hear this and it encourages them to actually want to go make a difference in their communities, wherever they're from, whether it be Mission, McAllen, Edinburgh, Far, San Juan, Alamo. We need that.
Absolutely.
Yes,
We
I
need
agree.
that. We need
You
that.
want to affect change, it starts at the local level.
Yes.
It starts with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Change
Absolutely.
starts with us, and you have to just stop being comfortable and get out there and do it. And so, I'm blessed and I'm honored that my job backs me up. I talked to Paul and I said, Paul, what do
course
you
he does.
think? And he's like, well,
Let me run the math on this.
no.
You're still working 40 hours,
You know
okay?
what you're getting into. Let me give you an idea.
Yeah, but he was amazing, and I think what sticks to me too is he is one of the persons that also said, stay true to who you are, and so far you've proven to be, a great person, have great ethics, it's there's no hidden agendas with me. What you see is what you get, and I'm
Right.
gonna fight for whatever I need to make things right and make things good for you, So I plan to use that, and hopefully, people will.
People recognize real, and people, especially in our industry, like people that have been around for a long time, they know who's full of bull,
Yeah.
and they also know who's being honest, because you can't, like, all we do all day is read people. So when someone's lying to you, you're like, dude, you're full of it. It's like, come on, bro. Like, why are you trying to sell me on something? Because all we have to, the way that we operate, we have to be able to read the person in front of us
Right.
all the time. So, I mean, I wish you the best on that.
Thank you.
I really
Abby
do.
for school board.
Let's go, Abby.
Thank you.
Let's
Thank
go.
you.
STBA supports you. I don't know who the
Absolutely.
other
Thank
guy
you.
is, but he's probably not an STBA.
So we don't care.
So
That's
we don't
for
care.
sure.
No, that's awesome.
That's for sure.
Congrats.
Well, thank you.
So
When
Abby,
is the election?
Yeah.
Early voting is April 22nd to April 30th, and election day is May 4th.
Do you have to be from Mission to vote?
You do.
Okay.
And so my area runs from Stewart to Inspiration all the way down south, and as far as 10 Mile Line is what I believe.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right,
Awesome.
cool.
So anybody in those areas, please know that
A click of the finger will go a long way.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It really would.
Yeah.
I think that one of the most important years for a child, at least in my perspective of this life that God's given me, I in those years of 6, 7, and 8, I experienced a lot of bullying, like horrible hazing. I'm
Yeah.
talking about like. I went to LBJ. So if you made it out of LBJ, because it was like gang driven,
Well, that's where you get your street cred.
dude, crazy. And I would get beat up. And I remember I would just for the hell of it, just for existing, right? And I remember I would fake sick and I'd call mom and dad. Mom and dad are busy, man. You can't just go pick you up because you're getting your butt kicked. Like, you got to figure it out. And one of the things that listening to that story is that you never really know what a kid's going through, man. Like, you really never know, and not just in school, but like you said, at home. And I look back now, and I'm like, man, I wish I could see the person that used to kick my ass in those grades, because now I'd just probably laugh. I'd be
Yeah.
like, you're,
Look at me
I would
now.
want to see where you're at in life, but those are things that I'm talking about getting. One of my fears growing up was the dark. I just hated it. I had this weird fear of the dark, and one of the things that it was crazy. I was in 7th grade, and in LBJ they had the locker room. So the way it worked is like the gym. It was like the basketball gym, and then the locker rooms were to the side. Upstairs were the lockers, and downstairs were the showers. But at the time, nobody would shower, so they were just useless, right? You were like, whatever. So you had nothing but little pestoso kids running around. But one of the things that happened was, I'm pretty sure these guys didn't know I was terrified of the dark, dude. But I got locked in the locker room with the lights completely off, and I started fucking panicking, bro. And like, not screaming, but I'll never forget that I broke down, bro. And when I broke down, it took like, I don't know, in my mind would seem for hours, maybe could have been 20, 30 minutes. a coach finally opened the door and was wondering what the fuck, and I just kept hitting the door. But those are things that you don't know because you will never hear. So it just, that was then. Like, now it's different, dude. Like, now there's social media where kids can, I saw an article of a kid that took a picture of a girl and asked the AI to show the girl in like a bikini or something, and then they spread it all over school.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like now there's different animals, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, we need you on the school board.
Well, God willing, I'll be there.
All right.
Yeah, you got my vote, even though I don't live in Mission. That's awesome. Or do you have grandchildren?
I do. I have two in Houston.
2 in Houston.
6-year-old and 2-year-old boy.
How many
Boys.
kids did you have?
3.
3 kids.
Yeah.
Boys, girls?
2 girls and a boy.
Nice.
So
That's awesome.
Very cool.
That's awesome. Abby, you have nothing but boys, right?
I have 4 boys.
4 boys.
Yes.
You're blessed. My mom had 3.
I know. That's why your mom and I have, like, we're kindred souls. We know what it's about.
It's not easy, man. It's not easy raising
I bet.
males.
No, but it's
not.
fun.
Man, I want to thank you guys for coming on the podcast.
well, it's been fun.
Paul, where do you see us? Where do you see the Valley here in the next 20 years?
Gosh, percolating to where 107 is going to be like Trenton.
Yeah.
We're going to, the whole region will continue to be, and I'm trying to push the Rio Grande Valley Metroplex
Yeah.
myself. I think that's what it's going to become.
I think it should be. I agree.
And we're going to continue to have better educational facilities, better medical facilities. There's going to be, more people living here. The port and the beach and all that. No telling what that's going to be like. What the
That
Butter Island
LNG
is
plant,
gonna-
I don't know how many billions they're
Yeah.
putting into that.
Yeah. So no, we're just. If you think about how far we've come in a short period of time,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's going to be even faster.
Everything is faster.
Everything is faster.
Yeah.
Who remembers Nolana Loop?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
The loop,
Oh, faithful.
Yeah.
north of Trenton was dirt, right? On Jackson, McCall.
Right.
Wow, bro.
Not too long ago.
No, not at all.
So 20 years from now, it's exciting.
Well, you guys do a great job, and of course, we, in particular, at South Texas Business Alliance, Builders Alliance, we love being associated with you all.
We appreciate it.
And what it's really inspiring to me is that you guys are the next generation.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate
We
you.
appreciate y'all's support.
Yes.
Thank you for supporting us from the very beginning. You have no idea how much that catapulted us.
Yeah.
Having Valley Land title.
We were
Take a chance.
we were more than happy to get involved and be involved.
Yeah.
And you guys are always present in everything we do.
Yep. I see
And thank
Paul
you
at the
guys.
power lunches. I see Abby there at the power lunches.
All the time.
We believe in you.
Yeah. We appreciate that.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We have a raffle that we like to do on the show, and every week the prize varies. How many comments and likes and shares did we get this week? Yeah. Okay.
Of course we do. We got some rock stars here. We do.
So
We got a good amount. We got
everybody liked, comment,
We
and
have
share.
3.
Do you want to give them an extra couple of minutes to do it? We'll give them like 3 minutes.
What are we doing? We're waiting
Yeah.
for people to comment. We're gonna give them 3 minutes to like, comment, share. What are we giving away?
You got to open the box.
Is that what it is? Are we doing that?
Yeah, like it's a surprise.
Okay, that's kind of cool. That'll keep people.
Let me see.
Engaged.
I'm gonna. Ulises, can you bring me that phone?
I didn't like and share this time. It better not be something that great because if I miss out,
I'm gonna be really.
I haven't won anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna open it here so that whoever knows, I'm gonna be like, guys.
Well, I'm fascinated to know how you pick a winner.
You know, you can pick me. The way Yuli's got this app that I don't know how Yuli does this. It somehow calculates or tallies everybody that's comment, liked, and shared automatically now, right?
Right.
And it pulls it from our social media somehow, some way,
And then it makes a random selection.
and it just makes a random selection.
Amazing.
It's a STBA algorithm.
Okay, 3 minutes starting now. 4:26. We will announce it at 4:29. 4:30.
Let's see, 26, 27, 28, 29.
Abby had a 4:30, right?
Yeah, but actually, I'm just getting a.
But it's been canceled.
Not even coming.
Here we go.
How long are you going to be doing Valley Land Title, Paul?
Well, as long as I still get up in the morning and look
Yeah.
forward to coming to do it. I mean, but yeah, there's a limit. I mean, I'm much closer to the end.
Yeah.
But no, sincerely, I really enjoy the people that I work with. I enjoy our clients, our customers. I enjoy, you feel good about what you do. Let me tell you, in our business, there's times when you got a first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
And then you got somebody that's coming in. The parents have passed away. They're selling a house, settling up, and spreading some net worth to the family. We have a small business person borrowing money, trying to expand their business.
Mm-hmm.
They got to come through us. I mean,
Yep.
the bank's going to.
You see it all, right?
Collateral. Yeah, and so all of those things are really neat. So we help, for example. Economic development corporations are working on trying to get somebody in. They need some work on some property. And you find out who owns this. We think we have somebody that needs it, or they're trying to do a park, and they need some help in getting things like that done. So there's not much around here in terms of real estate that we aren't have a finger in one way or the other.
Yeah.
We're making all these things happen.
Did you hear what they just gave to Elon Musk?
No.
They gave him the Boca Chica National Park.
Oh, yeah, that SWAT they were talking about?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm not sure it was the park.
I saw a national park.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure about that, but there is a swap going on that got approved by the state.
A swap?
What is it?
Land swap. No,
Land swap?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
so
Land swap. I heard
SpaceX
swap.
wanted to expand their facility, so they wanted this property, and in turn, they gave them other property that they had.
Gotcha.
That's pretty cool.
Big deals.
All right, guys. Let's do the rap. Yeah.
Who's going to do the...
We'll let Abby press the button because it's Women's Day,
Yeah.
There you go.
So it's a wheel, right?
and all you do is you
Press it in the middle, it's gonna spin the wheel.
and then we're gonna announce the winner. There you go.
That's-
Everyone liked, commented, and shared. Yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
Great.
This is very grassroots podcast. One of these days, Paul, in 20 years, here's what I predict.
Joey Andrade.
Nice.
Congratulations, Joey. I just saw him yesterday at the workshop.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what he wants.
Congrats.
Let's open this up for him.
One of these days, we're going to be able to afford a professional studio.
Well,
with
this is kind of
multiple-
cool. Willie Geist does this on NBC on Sundays at 7 o'clock. He
Yeah.
does his interviews in different
He just moves
bars
around.
and stuff in New York.
Yeah, that's cool.
Going to have a featured
Yeah.
interviewee.
Well, it's a Yeti.
Okay.
Ooh.
Those are always nice. Oh, hell yeah. That's
Right.
super nice. That's good for at least a 12-pack.
Minimum. Few ice cubes.
Right? And a few ice cubes.
Congratulations, Joey. He actually works with Espino Construction, and they were there yesterday for the workshop with Central Materials. So congratulations, buddy. This is great. This is great.
You have 5 minutes to pick it up, or else it's mine. Cool. Guys, I appreciate y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
y'all.
you.
Thanks for coming on the podcast.
You bet.
It was great. It
that
was
was very
fun. We'll
cool.
do it again.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, and
You're
thank you
welcome back anytime.
to everybody that tuned in. Thank you to every member of SCBA. You guys are the heart and soul of this organization. Ronnie and I are beyond grateful with everybody that comes on and shares a little bit of their time with us. Thank you once again, Mr. Paul, and thank you, Abby. Thank you, Ulises, for always being here, taking care of us. You want to say anything else? You good to go?
I'm good, man.
Man, thank you all to everybody. Y'all have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.